Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
So I'm reading a book called The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck, where she made the point that we all lie, sometimes without even thinking about it. She shared that often in her speaking, she will ask the crowd if they're fully comfortable, to which everyone kind of nods and says yes and kind of murmurs and all of that. Then she asks again, and again everybody nods. She asks a third time, and it kind of starts getting uncomfortable. I think people start getting annoyed by that. She asks the crowd if they would be sitting that way if they were home on their couch. And slowly it dawns on the people in the crowd that they aren't as comfortable as they would ordinarily be when they aren't stuck in an auditorium chair or folding chairs or squished next to somebody else. Maybe you're as comfortable as you can be in that moment, but you're not fully comfortable. You wouldn't say that you are completely at home and completely yourself if you're sitting listening to a speaker, right? Sometimes, honestly, we just blow past the tough stuff because we think we don't have time for it, or it isn't socially acceptable to say, or we think nobody would care, or that it wouldn't do any good. But Beck makes the point that when we lie to ourselves and others about things like this, it affects our integrity because we're not acting honestly with others or ourselves. The point of all this is that we can have integrity in the waiting with ourselves and with God. Hey, it's Jen. You're listening to the Bible for Busy People, and this is a point that goes into our overall theme this week of waiting on God's promises and learning how to wait well. Today we're in 1 Samuel chapter 1. It says, there was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zuphite from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. One was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion, because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? He didn't quite get it. Once, when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly, and she made a vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, How long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Also somebody who didn't get it. Not so, my lord, Hannah replied. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. Eli answered, Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. She said, May your servant find favor in your eyes. Then she went on her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Early the next morning they arose and worshipped before the Lord, and then went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. So in the course of time, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, Because I asked the Lord for him. We don't know how long it was that Hannah went through infertility, but we do see year after year. Infertility is painful. I have personally experienced it, and it's the weight of not knowing what's wrong. It's wrestling with God. It's being frustrated with your body and unsure about the future. Meanwhile, she was also being taunted by her rival. Now, notice it doesn't actually say Peninnah's name there, although they surely had a strained relationship, so it was probably her. But we also don't know how others viewed or treated her, maybe with pity or maybe with suspicion, like what had she done that God hadn't granted her children? Also, again, her husband Elkanah did not seem to get it fully, what was going on with her. All of this weighed heavily on Hannah, and so she goes to the temple and she prays passionately. Now, it doesn't tell us for sure, but you can imagine this isn't her first time crying out to God. I had read Hannah's story many times, but only recently did I read 1 Samuel 1:16 translated the way CSB does, the Christian Standard Bible. It says, "Don't think of me as a wicked woman. I've been praying from the depth of my anguish and resentment." That last word in Hebrew has been translated as vexation, provocation, grief, and indignation. Hannah was bold and direct with God. It was sadness, but it was also her feeling wronged, feeling that injustice had been done to her. Last week, we talked about Naomi and how she too laid her grief and pain before God. Hannah does the same here. And then she goes, after she does all of that, laying that before God, she leaves strengthened, even with no guarantee. She really did put it all before God and left it there. God honors this. Those moments that we don't settle for spiritual bypassing the hard stuff and really bringing everything before Him. It is powerful. I remember when I went through infertility, it became a time where I talked to God differently than I had my whole life up until that point. It was a lot of wrestling and grappling and frustration and just sadness. And it really changed my whole walk with God to go to that deep of a level with Him. God does not expect us to put on a happy face in our waiting season and skip past the heartache. God allows us to come to Him without fixing our faces. God welcomes our emotion and sits with us in the heartache. Remember that God first describes Himself as compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in love. While we have so much to be grateful for in this life with the grace of God that brings joy, we also struggle through the difficulties of living in a suffering world. The world is broken, our systems are broken, we are hurting, and we hurt each other. But this is our reminder that we can show up before God as we are in the happy times and also in the hard ones. Hannah's faithfulness to do this leads to Samuel becoming an honorable priest after Eli's sons are dishonorable and wicked. He becomes a prophet and a judge for Israel. He becomes the leader that Israel needs, the one who eventually anointed the kings. We hear Hannah's song in chapter 2, verses 1 through 10 of 1 Samuel, and I encourage you to go back and read that if you can. But how can you keep your emotions present in your relationship with God while you wait, as you both hold the grief and the good? How can we get our feelings out in a healthy way with God so that we are sustained in the waiting? I'll leave you with that question, and we'll chat again tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.